excited to do another one. I'm just gonna get chat set up here. Everyone from wherever you are, if you're just logging in or whatever, go ahead and say what's up in chat if you want. Let me know where you're from. I titled this stream Trump, Iran, and philosophy, fitness stuff. Just figured kind of mess around for a little bit. But yeah, right now, sort of the most recent news with Iran. The last couple of days, the Trump administration has spent time going through and trying to manage the intelligence leaks, as well as trying to market and sell to the American people that the strikes on Iran were sort of a success. You know, it's always a weird thing when you think about like voters, constituents, like anyone who votes and puts their opinion out. You know, polls, whatever it is. They're it's just weird that Trump's like first thing was like I'm going to convince people that our strike was so successful without even explaining in the first place why it was necessary or anything like that. Hey, what's up? Well, yeah. So, um, yeah, and so that was like the last couple days. The last couple days of the Trump admin was like really covering those intelligence reports. Um, this is funny. The other things that Trump has spent time doing was advertising and marketing his goals and initiatives um, for budgets. This is really weird because we did have like there was like a period of time where Trump was using the military, right? Trump deployed National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles. People think that's old news, but there's still going to be court cases and stuff about that. So, not trying to lay it on too thick, but it's just really weird to see, Trump and Pam Bondi and all these people go on Fox News. I mean, Pete Hegseth, right? SecDef. This guy went on like all different, Fox News and all this other stuff. And it's like, bro, you didn't explain anything in a way that I understand. That's the first thing. And like the second thing is like, you know, when I see Donald Trump like going on Fox or whatever it is, and you know, and he's the one, right? He's the one that is like telling people that this strike was so successful, and you already have conflicting reports. Um, it's crazy. But oh, I forgot to mention that too. Yeah, Iran had a public sort of mourning funeral sort of thing for the victims of the attack. So there, Iran is reporting, and if you look at the damage, it seems reasonable that 60 people died, civilians, people part of their nuclear scientific community, as well as top generals. And so, this is like a week after the peace accords. Um, I think in like the prototypical Islamic society, like not a place like maybe Indonesia, maybe not like Saudi Arabia, which is considered fairly Western, maybe not Dubai or Qatar, but in like Iran, I think there is more faith, hope, and belief that sort of what the society and the polity does, what gets pushed out, is like it's like a really important part of the society. So having a public funeral, I don't think it's like the same exact sort of context as Melissa Hortman in Minnesota. Um, and yeah, yeah. What's up, Mr. Boondock Journeyman? Um, yeah, and so knowing what I know about U.S. politics and about Middle Eastern politics, um, you know, This is one of those things that I'm sure reformers, Iran just elected a reformer. He's a guy that has been saying that you need public demonstration, public speech. You need to, if you're going to be pushing stuff out to the Iranian people in a way that's not like the American people, you need to give people the space and room to work. You cannot have people believing that the regime is cracking down on society itself. You can't create that separation, and there has to be some sort of political parity. And so, you know, like, Trump and Hegseth on stage is like, well, this is a fault, they'd be like, well, yeah, we're bitter enemies with Iran. And it's like, well, that's not true. We actually have very little or nothing to do with Iran, except for those three nuclear sites, except for those, except for those. Right? And yeah, so let me know what you think in chat. I would be excited to understand from MAGA voters, for people that are still supporting Trump, think Trump did the right thing here, to like try to explain to me how Donald Trump is having a normal Sunday tomorrow, normal Monday, normal Tuesday, normal Saturday, whatever it is, when we have all of these uncertain things going on. And like, once we get through that, why don't we then talk about geopolitical strategy together? First, give me that one small chance to explain that, why Donald Trump seems like such this sort of egregious. He seems like such an egregious character and whatever. Yeah, but let me know. I'm hoping that in the next week there's only good news about the peace accords. I'm hoping Israel finds a chance soon to wind down some of their operations outside of Israel. And I'm hoping that the reconstruction process is teed off. I know there's a lot of people that need aid, but humans tend to get back on their feet quickly. That doesn't. I can talk about this. I got in a debate on the Geopolitics Discord about whether or not there's a genocide in Palestine, whether or not there's a genocide in Palestine. And so, my argument was that, if we're going to use the term genocide, which has complex connotations in terms of international justice and the policy and security approach to resolve it, then you also need to talk about the complexity of the situation, right? That's one of the things I felt neither Israel nor Gaza nor Al Jazeera nor Fox nor CNN did that well at the start of the conflict. They didn't. They talked down to people, and your favorite influencers, like, whatever. It's fun to have fun and all this other stuff, but a lot of people just read the tapes, right? I'm a very small creator, very small time creator. I don't want to bag on anyone. I send people to Sean Carroll. Go to Sean Carroll. Go to Don Lemon. Don Lemon knows that. And so, I think a lot of people did read the tapes and read the news and wanted to insert some sort of perspective, but they couldn't get down to the level of complexity where it's like useful. It's useful, right? I didn't hear a single person talking about how Israel has been securitizing and doing the national mandatory military service, and still conducting, large international arms deals. Is all of that necessary? Maybe, maybe it's not. What's up, everyone? Apparently it's Israel Day today, guys. Apparently we're doing the Israel Day today. The other stuff that's been coming up on Discord, it's what I'm not Jewish, but I stand up for, like, not Holocaust denying and stuff. It's funny because in like the geopolitics world, the term the Jews gets thrown around sometimes by people that are too smart to use the term the Jews. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. Hey, what's up, Miss Amelia? What's up, Amelia? Yeah. And so the reason I support Israel, for one, I support Israel in the sense that, if they're making this decision to have mandatory military service, moving everything to the right, sort of seems like nationalizing and de-democratizing some of their institutions. They're removing some layers of transparency and accessibility to the security infrastructure, which Israel hasn't historically done at all. Um, they haven't historically done that at all, right? Like the the correct conversation, I think, is understanding how Israel is being a fair, unfair, reasonable regional actor. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Hanging in there. Um, yeah, cool. That's you have ancestors on both sides of this the fence. Um, yeah, yeah. That's crazy. So, um, you know, it's really weird to think of an entire society that has been besieged for so long. And with Iran, I think like a charitable thing that I can say about Iran uh, is that like, yeah, look, I don't think the United States has that much to do with Iran. They've probably been left out of international politics for a long time and for some reason. But when we see these broad sweeping arguments, even like I'm doing right now, like that national minister, like it doesn't make sense that you have IDF spokespersons as the most watched person in Israel, even during a war. But it's like, well, if that is what the conditions called for, then who knows? I don't know. You guys can tell me when I don't know something, which is probably quite a bit. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. Um, you know, one of the interesting things is that Trump did have we keep talking about this. Trump had Congo as well as uh, the Congo as well as um, Rwanda at the White House the other day. Congo and Rwanda. So um, Congo and Rwanda. Congo got out of the civil war um, around in 2009 or 2010. 2009, 2010, that time period, and there was supposed to be really deep discussions about more inclusion of Tutsis in the political process. And if you remember, the movie Hotel Rwanda um, was about the genocide that did exist in Rwanda. It was about that genocide, which was a very clear genocide. It was people on the radio handing out machetes and telling them, like, I don't know why I'm laughing, but telling them, like, well, you can participate. You should be participating. Um, And so for the last roughly for at least the last like 8 years, and I think what most people are saying is, well, actually since probably about the Civil War ended, you had this rebel group called M23, the March 23rd movement, who basically, they asked once, they knocked once, and um, you know, out of respect for the Congolese people, they said, include us in your political process. Please include us in the political process. Um, and uh, when that didn't happen, it turned out M23, while they're based in Congo, uh, they're a Tutsi group. So there's lots of reasons that Rwanda doesn't want Congo to go it alone. They don't want Congo to get too far out ahead. These are like really like I'm not trying to. I really try not to talk down to anyone when I go live. But if you can think of like all of the reasons why you don't want your closest neighbor to be like 10 times stronger than you or something, 10 times stronger. Um, well, M23 is a a way to have that conversation. Yeah, boy, can we have that? Boy, can we have a dialogue about that right now? Boy, are we having a dialogue right now about that? Um, I remember I saw there was this one really cool like political science model that I saw online um, where this person looked at M23 and they mapped out their different connections to like the private sector, public sector, elected officials, different regions, different banking structures and stuff like this. And you look at and when you looked at it all, it wasn't like, well, this doesn't look like Hollywood set up a couple huts like wood huts and dirt in at Universal Studios, right? This wasn't filmed in LA. Um, it's actually like a very deeply social and politically ingrained thing that the Tutsi population in Rwanda and DRC has a shared identity, and therefore, and people will say, and therefore, the political demands can be the same. The political demands, the geopolitical asks, the way that people see power sharing between DRC and Rwanda, the way that people see power sharing in the process. Power sharing in the process, so not just who gets to vote, but once you vote in the poll, what outcome or would you expect from that? And then what does reality look like? What does reality look like? And so the argument from Rwanda is that, well, first of all, we haven't done a single thing to support this rebel group. This is all brainwashing. And by the way, Congo, if you're perfectly innocent, why is it that you're shuffling the US and China out of your country? You know, like you got your laundromat ticket in and, everything's up. You can just go do whatever you want now. Right? You're acting like so free and like there's no political problems in the world because you're very rich, very, very rich Earth, richest Earth maybe in the world. Obviously, bro. So there's two sides to every issue. Yeah, two sides to every issue. How's everybody doing tonight? Ilan Pepe, Jewish Israeli historian, and Dr. Gabor Mate. I've heard the name. See what they say about Palestinians. I will have to check out Ilan Pepe. A while back, I forgot if someone posted it on Reddit. I'm like a huge nerd about philosophy and sociology and stuff, political theory. It's a total like screen killer when you bring up political theory. But yeah, it was interesting. I read different Zionist literature, and some of it sounds a lot like, well, this sounds like it could work someplace in America, and then in other cases, it's like, well, this is basically just Bolshevik. This is basically just Marxist communism, and all this other stuff. Hey, what's up, Lisa? I don't know what a Khazar is. Acting is Hebrew. Yeah, I do think I think I think Israeli identity primarily when I think about it, sorry to offend or push on anything, but I think of it as like primarily liberal. I think of it as very liberal, and so you find workable solutions. You have to have workable solutions because how else do you create an expectation about reality, right? You don't have like game theoretic competition, and you also don't have certainty without without that sort of some of that liberal rationalism stuff. It's a little bit of a bias, right? I'm trying to be more cosmopolitan. Tries. I'm kind of tired right now. But I'm doing my best. Really doing my best. I'm too tired to do funny voices. I don't know. Grab the camera for the Lamar edit means. I'm very old, so do like and subscribe if you want to follow a 35-year-old dude filming on a Motorola, bro. We are getting after it out here. Let's go. What's up, Zuberry? What up, Vic? Yeah. And so that's the kind of the latest. Thank you to the chat and everyone for bringing some stuff, a little flair into it. Before talking about Israel, we were talking about Trump's sort of cult of he, him, and I, and how he can just show up at the White House and like it appears that all of a sudden his last 3 months of decisions weren't they're not understood by a lot of people and by like the Supreme Court. And now we're talking over that too. Now we're talking over it. Pretty funny stuff. Pretty funny stuff. Yeah. Um, and so I'm excited. My one ray of hope is Mamadani in New York. Um, I just want to see I would love to see the democratic socialist conversation happen. I know not everyone is that big on that kind of stuff. Um, you know, from from my perspective, even having some guy who puts on his website like I want fast buses, I want grocery stores, you kind of see that kind of stuff pop up. And it's like, well, that's really hard to deny. You can't say the guy didn't say it because he said it. The guy said it. Uh, yeah, please, Mr. Tanashik. Um, yeah, if you have like a clean usage of the word Jew, and someone is actually Jewish, it's still very a weird thing to do. Um, you know, what's up? Welcome to the stream and stuff. We're just hanging out, doing a little bit of American political talk. We talked a little bit about both the Bolshevik and liberal form of Zionism and what's happening in the political sort of space there, trying to find like a nice sort of happy medium. Some things, no offense, but yeah, let's not let's try and talk nicely and all that stuff. Yes. Um, thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah. MAGA killed human decency. Um, yeah, MAGA did tell people. One of the main things that MAGA did, I think, was tell people that the world was easy to understand. And just because I don't know if everyone in chat is from the U.S., so in around 2008, both the Democrats and Republicans saw sort of a shift in the American political landscape. And the Republican response, being entrenched in a war and not seeing how a conservative sort of, this is my story, not when you take away information from someone, the way I explain that is if you don't have information that is sort of springing forth, telling you what to do next, you call the Koch brothers, right? You call people that are deeply embedded in this neoconservative and neoliberal sort of vision for the future. And so even without the nationalism, during like the 2012 election, we saw the birther movement pop up. We started to see like harsher smear campaigns against politicians like Hillary Clinton. And one of the things that didn't work during that time was, it was not very clear to the political elite in Washington that change needed to happen. That we get Barack Obama, we get a great free market exchange healthcare system, but for a lot of people on the outsides of society, like I can't imagine having been generationally poor. I also can't imagine having been generationally wealthy and realizing around 2010 that you've been lied to your entire life. That like, the things that actually account for success aren't what you think they are. All kinds of like hard to swallow pills, stuff that people actually have to take away and work on, stuff that you have to have time to go out and go do. It's not stuff that you can just bounce around on. And so it's great to listen, to trust people. When Trump, even when in 2025, when Donald Trump when Donald Trump gives you an opportunity to listen to him and to trust words that were actually prepared and are about the world from the perspective of the White House, people should listen. they should also take it with a grain of salt if he's talking to you like you're a dipshit, right? No, sorry, but if he's talking to you like you are a child and you're not capable of making the decision if now is the time for you to go and invest in learning more about politics, learning more about the world, right? Go learn about M23, go learn about Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why doesn't the White House say, well, yeah, we've been taking this stuff seriously and we just now have the opportunity to do something about it? Why does Trump just have what appears like some magic fucking Barbie bus, show up at the goddamn White House with leaders and diplomatic envoys from like fucking 6 different countries, and and all of a sudden, it's like, well, like ta-da, here everything is, and right now, people in the United States still don't understand the decisions that they may make or could make, or the political asks that they could have that could alleviate conflicts and tensions like this. That is not too much to ask of someone. That is not too much to ask of someone. Um, and so, yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm a little upset at Donald Trump. Like, I'm like I mentioned, I'm 35 years old. So when I go out and try and form a political belief, I really want someone to talk to me respectfully. I don't believe that there's anything that sort of mysterious that you need to hide, what your geopolitical strategic platform is. I don't think I don't think I'm like necessarily this very like emotionally mature person, but as far as like political theory goes, as far as being able to go out and research or understand what's happening out in the world, I think decently highly of myself. And I feel like Donald Trump has let me, an entire generation down that loves looking at information, loves kind of putting together that social context, um, and more than anything, loves to try and be innovative or just nice. Are the two really that different? I don't really think they are. I don't think they are. Um, yeah, TDS. You know, I do like panels and debates sometimes, and it's just funny. I've just observed, maybe it's just me, but the sort of cycle of TDS being either for people that believe in Trump or people that don't. It's a funny phrase. It's a funny phrase when it means both things. I think it's really weird when it's like you know, all liberals must be going out to try and find something nefarious. All liberals must be going out to find something nefarious. Nefarious. I can't help my liberal teeth and liberal blood suckle on the teeth of another Trump disaster. Ooh. Guys, what did we say about? We just talked about not being really weird about saying the word Jew when you don't when if you're not Jewish, if you are not Jewish, you're saying the word Jew to make someone else feel uncomfortable, even if that person is Jewish, which you still don't know because it's YouTube. That's just the TDS stuff, the duck criticism, that stuff's fine. Let's try and keep it just a little bit civil, a little bit civil. We're trying to be respectful to one another right here. Please, thank you. Please, please, please. Oh, Vic's a Catholic? That's awesome. That's awesome. JS, are you good? Seriously, you good? All right. Um, just chill for a minute, JS. Not trying to call it out, not trying to be anything like that. Not trying to be super weird. Just chill for a minute. Come back. Talk to us. Talk to us. Talk to us. All good. All good. Yeah, Vic, I saw you said you're a Catholic. I'm a former Catholic. I don't like doing like religious debates or stuff like that. Not unless it's like someone agreed to it. But yeah, I'm a former Catholic. I went to 2 different Catholic schools in the U.S. Roman Catholic. Um, and yeah. So I was just talking about that today. One of my friends, one of the other people that sometimes I collaborate with or whatever, she runs like a super evangelical Christian channel, which is funny because I'm like a kind of radical atheist, but yeah, and like yeah, it's not. And anyways, I was just telling her about I was just telling her about how like all I cared about when I was Catholic was like going to the soup kitchen. When I deconverted, it's like I also did altar serving. Yeah, I also did that. That's funny. Hey, what up, Chris? Um, yeah, and so when I was Catholic, all I cared about it wasn't the tradition. Um, the tradition didn't really matter that much. Um, the tradition matters when you sort of understand and like kind of um, when you can keep sort of like God top of mind, then tradition matters again, right? I'm not trying to do like apologetics, but when I deconverted from Catholicism, I did I was like, well, you know, God doesn't care if I was good based on what the Bible says. God cared would care. What God would care about is if I'm doing the social Catholic social justice thing. That's the God that I understand. So I'm not trying to be funny, but um, yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll be Protestant one day. Maybe, maybe we'll see. Maybe if God decides to get active, right? You know, how's bro doing? God decides to get active, and all of a sudden I'm out here. I'm out here doing whatever I'm doing, but you know, God's getting active, and I'm like, I can't not. You know, I gotta go Catholic again. Um, yeah, he turned born again. Cool. Yeah, I went to one of my friends was evangelical. He was an evangelical. That was big at the time. And so I went to a couple hot church sessions. Um, but yeah, it was a little extreme. Like even when I was like 14, 15, you know, high school, like early high school, like I noticed when an adult yelled at me and told me I was going to hell, like just the way my brain already worked, even though I was a dumb boy or whatever it is, like even at that time, I was like, well, you know, you're a fucking idiot. Like, no offense, but you are an idiot. This isn't about me at all. This is just about you believing something super crazy. You're gonna tell me I'm gonna go to hell, right? So who knows? Maybe that is like the grand, you know, if I'm like Jordan Peterson and it's, you know, it's like, well, most of our beliefs are formed when we're still children, and it's just so sad to see these young adults living like they don't have a purpose. Like nobody has a purpose. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, so I wasn't one of these Kensington Christians going around and just repeating stuff. I was like a serious Catholic at the time, fairly serious Catholic, and what turned out to be more important to me, like I mentioned, was the social justice component. You know, social justice component uh, really to me meant that you know you should not just be a Catholic, but you should have a 30-year view of how the world's getting better. And yeah, not trying to get into a debate or anything, but why I deconverted is because I could have that 30 or 40-year view or an opinion, a worldview, a perspective without being Catholic. So that's what happened with that. Oh, Vic, thank you for your service. I'm just gonna guess, you know, Iraqi military or something. You know, yeah, I'm not a vet or anything. Obviously. I always work on that though. I always work on that, even though I didn't. Afghanistan. Cool, cool. Yeah. Um, yeah, I was in high school, so uh, I was also in college, right? I was, you know, me at home. I was at me at home. I was at high school and I was at college while Afghanistan and Iraq invasion was going on. So during that handoff, um, yeah, during that handoff, um, you know, I don't think I was very useful to the United States war effort, but I also didn't know at the time if I agreed with the decision. I was trying to be. My grandfather was Air Force. All my grandparents were in the military, as it turns out. But yeah, so um, yeah, all my grandparents were in the military. I wasn't. So cool. Yeah, I respected veterans, and yeah, it isn't. Good point. Everyone, see Vic. Look at the good form. Whoever's hitting those emojis right now, it isn't for everyone. It really isn't. Um, it really isn't. Uh, but yeah, I'm not trying to prove a point about anything. Um, Lupe. Lupe's tried to believe and turned atheist. Atheist. I'm not gonna change your mind. I'm wrong. I'm the wrong motherfucker for that. I'm the wrong motherfucker for that. I'm so wrong for that. I'm approaching this the entirely wrong way. This is crazy to me, but yeah, yeah. I don't think it hurt that I had a bunch of atheist friends in high school either, right? Um, Even though I went to a Catholic school, I ended up going back to a public school. I was a problem child, dude. Not like that, but like, um, you know, yeah. Um, so yeah, yeah. And that's the other good point. Vic is saying like Wes Watson. Um, Wes Watson's one of those guys too that like, look, if what would have kept him or that freaking what's the beer dude's name? Do you guys uh not not vegan games? That's another streamer. That's a streamer dude. But the Liver King, yeah, like Liver King or Wes Watson, those guys could have stayed out of trouble. Those guys could have stayed out of trouble by just you know he like Liver King or Wes Watson was like, oh, I could be Christian or I could be like a real atheist and stay out of trouble using Christianity or atheism. Yes. God needs. I can answer that question. God needs money, Lupe, God, um, because God's servants and not prophets, or sometimes prophets, fly on planes, fly on planes. Yeah, I already went through my. Yeah, I look just crazy enough to be Liver King, but I'm vegan, so I don't think I look as haggard as he does. No offense. Fame is a hell of a drug. Amen to that, right? I don't think anyone disagrees about that. I don't think anyone would disagree. I think Liver King, I think the things that he did to mess up was defend himself on camera after he got arrested, and talked about doing something about it. Um, and the other thing he did was film death threats with pew pews with firearms in the videos. And I feel really bad because that guy has a family, and whatever happened happened. But yeah, you can't do that. You cannot do that, and people should not, like as we used to say in all over the world. There's a good reason as a society we don't say that's okay, and we don't try and justify it. There's not like a red pill. There's no pill manosphere sort of explanation of Liver King, getting away with making making these really crazy threats on people. That's like not even close to being cool. That's not even close to being cool. Now I don't even look like myself though. Uh, yeah, what he did was against the law for sure. Very against the law. Um, Not only against the law, but like there are questions that he probably didn't ask and couldn't ask right now. Not really, not really. About why what he did was morally wrong, and also that's the same thing, right? Let's talk about this. So with Liver King, when you make a threat on someone and you film it with a weapon in your hand, not only is that objectively morally wrong, but the reason that objectively that is illegal, as he will find out after he has his day in court. Um, the reason that is illegal isn't because it's immoral, but there are the same types of reasons why it's illegal. The law is two things, right? You can sure, I can go hiking or go hunting, and maybe there's only one small part of the law that I'm following at that time, but that doesn't change the fact that if I'm out hunting or hiking and I do something really, really stupid, you could still have someone explain to me why that was illegal. Someone should still be able to like really, really like like God had me, right? God had me a little bit. God had me a little bit and be like, look, I don't know all the details, but this is what I saw. This is what I saw you do. And there is not another explanation for that, right? What you did was immoral and illegal. What you did was illegal, you know? So poor Liver King, right? Lupe, that would be cool. That would be cool. I wonder what it would be like to be a Navy SEAL. Be a Navy SEAL. That'd be crazy. Those guys still chose to kill people, though. In the spirit of the conversation, right? That's what you sign up. When you sign up for special forces, you are, it's like, okay, killer. Okay, killer. That's what this is. This is killing. That's a killy thing. That's not a killy thing. That's a, that's, you know, muck duck. Muck duck. Desire for oil. Do you agree or disagree? Yeah, Iran is where they are as a country because of our desire for oil. Do you agree or disagree? Partially agree. Yeah. I don't think. I think it would be like almost like borderline racist if you like pull from sort of history or theory and say that Iran isn't like every other country with resources, right? Um, I think if you know, the funny timing is that the entire Fertile Crescent really, and I think this would extend into like Persia, um, want like started having the conversations about becoming modern liberal like democratic states where everybody gets together and does things, does the very important things, um, around the turn of the 20th century. It was about that time, and so this was when you have World War One first, and then you have and then after World War One, um, you have a de-democratization of the world and a rise of fascism. And so a lot of the West and a lot of World War II is focused on control of these resources. I don't mean to prattle. I don't mean to prattle or jibber jabber about Iran. It's a good question, right? Yeah, it's a good question. That like Iran partially is where they are because of oil. But you also have like if I was to push back on that a little bit, I could say, well, look, Saudi Arabia, maybe like a little bit the Wahhabism is very different from Shia Islam, um, but all in some view of things, yeah, there's always going to be two interpretations. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be super mean or technical on tonight's stream. If you guys want to like and sub, maybe some other time. That's not why I'm saying that, but like, um, yeah, you'd have to tell me what you meant because, like Iraq was another like Iraq and Iran went to war both under an Islamic and a Ba'athist regime. Um, and like I think if you talk to like really deep Ba'athists, maybe not like maybe this is partially why Hamas looks so goofy in Palestine. But if you talk to really deep Baptists, they might say, well, like, yeah, this is like culturally understandable because it sort of has Islamic roots to some extent. We shouldn't have seen in like Syria, we shouldn't have seen Bashir al-Assad's like have these long monarchical you know, if you read old reports from the CIA, it's funny. Do you know who they talk about? The old CIA intel reports talk about Bashir al-Assad's dad, and they talk about Bashir al-Assad, who's not the president of Syria at that time. He's not like this de facto authoritarian leader. He's some fucking 19-year-old guy, like, whatever. But like, that's crazy. That's like 1980s. That's like under Bush, right? So like, that's like under Bush Senior, I think. Crazy stuff. Late 80s, maybe. Very crazy. Paradigm shift. Check out Stanford University Engineering Web3 project, the Pi Network. Cool. Very cool. Very cool. I one time, I'll tell a funny story. I used to work in tech. I actually, I don't know. This is obviously isn't about the Pi Network, but I had a meeting with the student VC arm. So Stanford invests in Stanford alumni, and I had a VC meeting with venture capital meeting with Stanford one time. That was cool. I was working with a guy from I think he was from Egypt. Yeah, I was working with a guy from Egypt. Who's from Egypt, graduated from Stanford with a bachelor's and master's in comp sci. And so he was like, yeah, called me up. He was like, duck. Good news. I got us a meeting with the investors at Stanford. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's try it out. See how that goes. Yeah, boring story, but that gray ocean. All right. How are you doing? I'm gonna. Sorry. We're not doing that. I know it's YouTube. We're not. Yeah, sorry, bro. I don't know what I can say. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know. Don't know. Can't do that here. Pippa. What up, Pippa? Fuck, Israel. Del Toro Rodriguez. That's a very strong name. Is anyone going to smash that like button? I think I'm supposed to say that stuff. Is anybody going to smash that like button? Let's do something cool. Let's talk about something cool. Yes. Oh shit. You're an actual smart person amongst us. What? I won't do that. I just had to time someone out because he said he knows my address and he's going to shoot me. Very Liver King. I know. Yeah. I could imagine. I don't know if you guys have that second voice inside your head though. But like I could picture Liver King before his thing, thinking just like, I love Joe Rogan. I really love Joe Rogan. All I got to say this one thing to you first before we go on and do anything else. I just got to say I love Joe Rogan. I've loved him the whole time, but I love him so much. I love him with everything. And so this one thing that I got to say to Joe Rogan, I think I also have to say to Derek, more plates, more dates. Derek says that I did steroids, and I didn't yet say I did steroids. So he technically said I did steroids before I did any steroids. So if we're talking about steroids, my question is, who's talking about steroids? Because I was talking about steroids, but he was not talking about steroids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my GoPro. I'm going to take out a microphone. I'm going to find all the things I have around my house that make me think about steroids, and I'm going to go do a video, and I'm going to send it to him. And then, like, actual Liver King hears this, and he goes, this guy's, he makes a good point. I've been through the ringer. then somebody calls the cops. And that's the abridged version. Mysterious things. Yeah. Yeah. If I said anything stupid on stream, I apologize. I don't know. I looked down and it was 1:30 and I decided to go live. As it were. As it were. You guys know Francis Fukuyama? Does anyone want to talk about the end of history? You know, one of the funny things is, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't communicated how the state of Israel is in a transitional period. He might say that Israel is too weak and secluded of a state in reality to project diplomacy across the region. They can project power if they get into a conflict, but they're not allowed to do anything else. And so this is fascinating because we shouldn't believe that Israel has any national interest, shouldn't have any national interest in hiding or somehow publicly discovering the fact that, you know, the current state of the IDF and the current deployment of institutions in Israel towards security goals is in the long-term interest of Israel. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You know, maybe this is just the BRICS world, right? This is liberal order 2.0. But yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu, like, you know, I could see Ben having wanted to talk about that. I could see PM Netanyahu having wanted to talk about that, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it reminds me of Frank. It reminds me of Frank Fukuyama when people talk about constitutions. You can just look at it right there, right? Just look at those. You know, it's kind of like Anthony Scalia spreading a butt cheek or something. You know, you look at a constitution and you can say, I can see everything that I would need to know right there, right there. And if there's nothing weird going on, I don't care if you have 5,000 or 500,000 pages of law. I don't care if you can go to, like, you know, some awkward, weird corner of freaking Texas or, you know, Chickasaw County in freaking South Dakota. You still spread the butt cheeks, right? You're still Scalia spreading the butt cheeks and looking at constitutional democracy. Right? And all you have to do is leave the cheeks open wide enough and long enough for, like, RBG to take a look and be like, yeah, I see what's in there. That's disgusting. I don't really need any of that, but yeah, I think I'm gonna bounce out. I am going to. Yeah, good to see everyone. I got a notification that one of the streamers I follow is starting up. So thank you for joining in. If you guys want to like and subscribe, you know, yeah, sometimes I stream at this time, sometime other times. I'm gonna work on some, like, more high quality content, hopefully stuff you guys like, stuff that inspires you to think and inspires me back. And yeah, very whatever, you know, I'm one of these guys that picks up my phone and the people I follow, it's like, cool, if they're doing something cool. And so yeah, that was a awkward way to invite you to stick around, and au revoir, said best.